Okay, and I think we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to tonight's streaming performance at the Wilbury Theatre Group. And tonight we are really proud to bring you an old favorite of ours, New and Dangerous Ideas by Christopher Johnson. This play, just to give you guys a little bit of background, was part of Wilbury's new work season in 2017-2018. It also won the 2018 RISCA Playwriting Fellowship and was a final for the McCall Johnson Fellowship Foundation Award through the Rhode Island Foundation. So a lot of history with this one. We love this play. We love Christopher and the work he does. And we are proud to say we have 2/3 of the original cast here tonight, Mr. Phoenix Williams and Mr. Christopher Johnson, and some new guest stars with us tonight, Angelique Dina, and Christopher's own daughter, Asha Andrade Johnson. Thanks for enjoying us tonight. We hope everyone is staying safe during the COVID-19 pandemic, and thank you for spending tonight with us. We appreciate it. And please, after the show's done, stick around for a quick little talk back with Christopher and the cast. And if you like what you see, please go to wilburytheater.org or wilburygroup.org/support and pay what you can and support stuff like this and work like this, most importantly. And I'll get out of the way now and take it away, y'all. Enjoy.
New and Dangerous Ideas is composed of true stories, poems, and monologues submitted by the Rhode Island community at large. It is not my job to teach white people about racism.
It is not my job to teach white people about their racism.
It's not my job to teach white people about their racism.
It's not my job to teach white people about their racism.
Wednesday, May 18th, 2016, at approximately 1300 hours, while on routine, patrol car 333, Patrolman Sheridan observed unidentified male subject wandering back and forth out of the intersection located in the vicinity of Broad Street and Montgomery Avenue. In an attempt to check the well-being of the subject, the officer asked the suspect who he was and where he was going. The suspect replied with, "I don't gotta tell you shit." It was at this time the police officer stepped out of his vehicle and again asked the suspect where he was going. The suspect then at this time pointed over Patrolman Sheridan's shoulder and stated, "Over there." Patrolman Sheridan asked what the exact address was, to which the identified male again stated, "I don't gotta tell you shit." Police then asked for an unidentified male to have a seat in the marked cruiser while police figure out where he lived. It was at this time an unidentified male pushed Patrol Sheridan's arm away and attempted to overpower Patrolman Sheridan. It was at this point Patrol Sheridan took hold of the suspect's arm and wrist and detained the suspect in the back of the marked cruiser. At this point, the suspect began screaming, "Please don't shoot me. God, please don't shoot me. The white cop is going to shoot me." As additional police units arrived on the scene, the suspect continued to exclaim that he was going to be beat up and killed by the white cops. It should be noted that during the encounter, while attempting to gain control, the suspect dented the rear passenger side door of the marked cruiser, causing minor damage. The unidentified suspect was transported to Central Station, where he was held for the next session of 6th District Court. The suspect was charged with simple assault, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. In addition to those charges, the suspect was advised in the cell block that if he did not give his personal information, he can possibly face an additional obstruction charge. Suspect stated, "He ain't care." Car 325, Sergeant Solito was notified.
Being successful Blacks doesn't matter. It happens to most of us. At no point in the dozens of times I've been unnecessarily stopped and harassed by Providence police did they ever ask my college education, employment status, income, etc. They mess with us based on what they see. Black skin. No amount of accomplishments or professional accolades changes that. You unknowingly let them off with their racist bullshit by trying to find some out for them. It doesn't matter if we are all unemployed or mop floors at Wendy's, or we're all brain surgeons. We shouldn't be treated, harassed like this just for existing the way we are and always have been in this country.
On our way home from day trip, we got pulled over by Stadies in Prague, supposedly for the light on the license plate being out, AKA for being in a car full of black males. Our driver did not have one sip of liquor the whole night and was driving perfectly fine. They asked for our IDs. Most of us gave it to him without hesitation, but one of us refused to. He argued that as a passenger, he didn't have to. We tried to convince him to just do it so that we ain't had to get the cops any reason to do anything, but he continued to refuse to let us go without a ticket. And after we had an intense convo about the situation, we discussed why as black males, despite knowing what our rights are, we fear the cops to the point we comply. We discussed why some of us pressured the friend who didn't give up his ID, claiming, we didn't want to fight this battle. We just wanted to go home. I don't want to become a martyr. Despite being someone who in most cases would stand up for my rights, I was scared. I know plenty of cases where innocent black men were arrested, humiliated, threatened, and provoked by the cops. I was scared that if I stood up for my rights, I may become another hashtag. I shouldn't have to feel that way. Millions of us shouldn't have to feel this way. As a black male, I live in constant state of tension between doing what I need to survive in a world set up for me to fail and holding people and this country accountable to its ideals and values. Parts of me feel like I chickened out and wasn't brave enough. Other parts of me just wanted to ensure we were all safe and was able to go home.
I would love to not have to consider myself white, but I think in the world's eyes, I am white even though I'm Jewish. Even though this country is very anti-Semitic, my whiteness gives me privilege that black people and other persons of color do not have. It's just the country though. I'm white by a power dynamic and constructs in this country, and that's why I'm white. But I am white. It's like the whole social media thing that happened with the man of color from this city and Nathan Bishop, and the woman wrote, I am Austrian and German. And I wrote back to her and said, you're white. I'm originally from New Jersey, New York area. Jewish people have always grown up, you know? You know what the signs used to say in the 40s and 50s? No blacks, no Jews, no dogs. Jews have always been that in this country, a very anti-Semitic country. But still, when this country sees me, an Italian or Jewish, they still see white. It doesn't matter what we feel we are. They still see white. We have not historically had the same privilege as a white person who is not Jewish in this country. But we still have privilege because we have white skin, so we're still white. So it was my daughter's birthday party, and she invited one of my students from my class in the school I was teaching at the time. The student was coming from Providence. It was at a pizza place about 4 years ago. She was in the 6th grade, so 2015. So pretty recent. Yeah. Because my daughter was in the 5th grade and she's in the 9th grade now, something like, so she invited my student. I don't want to remember how she got there, but it was on a pizza place on the main street in Barrington. It was around 9 o'clock at night when all the parents had to do pickup. It was pitch black outside. It was pouring rain. The student's mother drove up. So outside in the front, they have all these no parking signs, but you could never see them because it was pouring rain and blacked out. And if you didn't know where they were, if you didn't know that they were there, you wouldn't see them. So I'm standing inside the pizza place. I saw her mom pull up and get out of the car to come in. She had parked there just to come in and grab her daughter and bring her out. and I saw a cop pull up right behind her. I jumped out of the pizza place because I thought I knew what was going to happen. And the cop came out and started questioning her. She has a very strong Nigerian accent, the mom. So the cop wanted her name and license. And I said, hey, she's like picking up my daughter at my kid's birthday party. She didn't do anything wrong. He said it's legal. He said it's legal to park here. He said it's illegal to park here. I said, come on, it's raining. She can't see. She literally just pulled up. She was about to jump out her car, ran her name, ran her registration, ran everything. Was a complete jerk. He was like, nope, give me your license. Give me your this, give me your that. I just stood with her and then he ran it out. He ran it and of course there was nothing on it. After quite a while of him running around, sitting there in the pouring rain waiting, he said, okay, you can go. So she started to pull off. I started to go inside and then I started to realize he was going to follow her. I just knew he was going to follow her. So I came outside. The girls were actually staring out the window, looking. And I said, I'll be right back. I think they got scared because they know exactly what I was going to do. They were like speaking fast. They were like, where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? So I walked outside and I watched as pulled into. So she had to move up a little to get to the first pull around place where she can pull up. And I knew that she was pulling in to pull around to get to where she could pull out again. But I watched the cop pull in behind her. So I ran down to the parking lot where they were. So it was her car. The cop pulled up over to block her in. She's in the front. She's in the front. Her daughter, who remember is like 5th or 6th grade, is sitting in the back, pretty scared. So I went and I stood next to my student because I knew she was the most scared. And the cop said, get away from her door right now. So was like, I'm standing next to the kid's door. She's like in 6th grade. She's terrified that you are here. And I'm standing. She's not even touching the door. And he said, get away from the door. So I said, you have to have a reason why you're pulling her over now. She's pulling her car around to get out. And this is the second time. At this point, everyone was definitely getting scared. So he said aggressively, why did you pull over? And I said, so she can get her car out of the parking lot and leave. She did nothing. You ran her license already. You did everything. And then I brought up something about the police chief, about knowing the police chief. And I probably didn't know the police chief, but something like that. Something about somebody I knew, something that made him kind of go. I said, look, I live in this town and my kid goes to school in this town. I know everybody in this town. You can't do this. You can't pull her over. You can't just question her. I spent quite a bit of time talking to him, and he went back to his car for another check. He came back and he said, okay, there's nothing on her. I'm going to let it go. I said, you know what you're going to do? You're going to follow her out of Barrington to make sure that nobody else pulls her over. All the way out of Barrington so nobody else pulls her over. She's going to contact me once she's out of Barrington to let me know that you've gone and she is on the road. And that actually happened. She got out of Barrington. She pulled over to let me know. He followed her out of Barrington. I felt ashamed. I was furious. I was embarrassed. I was not surprised this is still happening, not just in Barrington, but anywhere. I mean, Jesus, you see the news. This reinvigorated me to continue doing the work. This is why I do it.
They say if it's not on Facebook, it didn't happen.
Even though I'm not seeing it, I'm pretty sure it's happening.
We keep saying never again until
the next hashtag digitally memorializes
the next Black name slain by blue bullets.
I can't watch another video. We shouldn't have to.
Hashtag another father.
Hashtag daughter.
Hashtag loved one.
And they don't get it. They say things like, what was he doing for the police to shoot him?
Hashtag Amedo de Leo. Why was she so mouthy? Hashtag Sandra Bland.
Black on black crime starts young.
Hashtag Tamir Rice.
Just cooperate with the police and you won't have a problem.
Hashtag Tanisha Anderson. Hashtag Miriam Carey.
It used to be every 28 hours, but now they can't wait a full day.
And I shouldn't have to wait to another snuff flick on Facebook to prove it's happening. Hashtag Duran Small. Hashtag Alton Shelton. Hashtag Philando Castile.
There is nothing we can do to change being born with black skin in America.
Hashtag Trayvon Martin.
Our terrorists don't pray to a foreign god 5 times a day.
Hashtag Omar Edwards. Hashtag Howard Morgan.
We don't see something, say something every time someone speaks Arabic in an airport.
Hashtag White terrorists kill more than Muslim terrorists in the USA.
Our terrorists don't believe 40 virgins wait for them in heaven every time a black life is taken.
Hashtag Cops kill more than both.
Amazing
Never again to us is like Amazing Grace.
Sweet.
A song written by a slave trader.
We try to find solace in reclaiming its meaning for ourselves, but that has as much usefulness as Nazi forgiveness during the Jewish Holocaust.
The holy cost of equality is so sacred, like forgiveness. It's only given to brothers, fathers, and sons who serve and protect blue lives, white covenant.
But I have a daughter. Aren't I a father too? Am I not May Dorothy's son, Michelle and Nicole's brother? Do I not deserve forgiveness for living while black in a country where it's almost illegal for me to breathe?
When a baby is choking, they tell the baby, put your hands up over your head to open the airway so the baby can breathe.
I wonder if.
Hashtag Eric Gardner's.
Mom said, just put your hands up, baby, and breathe before he breathed his last.
It's like they trained to kill us.
Please don't shoot me.
Hashtag Daniel Shaver.
Any attempt to defend ourselves is an act of war.
I'm not resisting.
Hashtag Freddie Gray.
It's on Facebook. It's on Twitter. It's all over YouTube. It's real. You can Google it.
I want to call this police porn snufflix.
They have to be getting off on this.
We must be having a running bet.
Who can have the best amateur video taken?
Winner gets.
GoFundMe's in the defense ranging in the hundreds of thousands of rewards.
After the shooting of 7 Dallas police officers, ex-representative Joe Walsh declared war on President Obama and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Dear ex-congressman, there are no hashtags before police officer names.
No makeshift memorials, but those officers were slain. No digital media press play icons for us to view.
Over and over and over, desensitizing Americans to gun violence against police like it is for gun violence perpetrated by police killing unarmed Americans.
If it is now war, then I guess the constant and continued murder of people of color is our Holocaust. Redlining practices chunked out African-American concentration camps. And instead of sewing stars on lapels, we just simply had to be born.
No gas showers or brick oven human roasting rooms, just brass encased hot lead handcuff baths, and asphalt and concrete blood pools.
Hashtag Michael Brown. Hashtag Oscar Grant.
Dear America, if I am pro something, I am not against something else.
I shouldn't have to choose between the police and the people the police are sworn to protect.
This is not a Black problem. This is an American problem.
I don't want a hashtag in front of my name just because of my skin color.
And don't tell me that all lives matter, because if all lives matter, Black Lives Matter would not exist.
The function, the very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language, so you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdoms, so you dredge that up. None of that is necessary. There will always be one more thing.
I'm Italian, Cape Verdean, and Portuguese. I'm not white enough to be white and not black enough to be black. Raised in a time where you're either one or the other in a neighborhood that blacks weren't allowed to walk down the street. I was teased and taunted. The North End, Charles Street, Providence. When I was 16, the police fractured my leg in 3 places and were calling me a spick as they beat me. When I speak of that day, the first question people ask, what did you do to make them beat you up? I truly, honestly did nothing. I was non-white stepping out of a Greyhound bus at Bonanza bus station, coming from Massachusetts. But these are things we deal with that white people don't understand. One summer when I was 20, I was detained by police because I was super tan and have the cop my license, and he didn't believe it was real ID. He asked how I got my Italian last name. They held me for 10 hours without reason. They let me go as if nothing happened. 2 weeks ago, me and my friend did a paid study. She's Black American. We both walked in the bank and stood in line. I got a Hispanic teller who cashed my check without a problem. She got a white teller who asked her a million questions about where she got the check. This is everyday life. The treatment is always different. Black people are always suspect. We have to continue to stand up and say it's not okay, even if it's just people being silent in the mistreatment of Black people. Silence is consent.
On May 18th, I went out to see a local band in Providence. I used public transportation, had a great evening with friends, and left home around 11 p.m. The last stop on the bus line is conveniently at the top of my street, so I exit the bus and begin a 5-house walk home. A police car drove past me, did a U-turn, and pulled up next to me. The police officer asked me my name. Rhode Island passed a bill in 1938 that says a peace officer may detain any person abroad who he or she feels reason to suspect is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a crime, and may demand the person his or her name. Because of the particular U-turn the officer made and the present climate of police-citizen relations across the country, I was on guard. I asked the officer why he wanted my name, and he firmly made his request again. I told him if he does not give me a reason for the stop, I do not have to give him my name. He exited the vehicle and blocked my path to my house. I tried to get around him and he grabbed me. I asked him if he was a public servant and if I was being detained. His reply was, why you gotta go and do that? He grabbed me and threw me against the car. I turned to him and said, I know you're a police officer. I know you can shoot me and be cleared of any crime. I have a daughter and I want to live. He opened up the car door and told me to get in. I got in. No handcuffs, no pat down, no rights. Long story short, I spent the night in the clink. You might wonder why I wouldn't give the police officer my name. I think the only reason I have for not giving a police officer my name is because I was hiding something or committing a crime. You might say I don't respect police, but the questions I have are, why does this not happen in predominantly white neighborhoods? If I was white, would the officer have made a U-turn to ask me my name? Would he have put his hands on me without giving me any reason? Creator, I pray that one day my mother won't have to worry herself gray over my being safe. I pray that blue uniforms and blackface performing their skits called Isolated Incidents, now touring America like an epidemic, would stop trying to cast me for the lead role, because everyone knows no matter the movie or show, the Black man is always the first to go. And Creator, I pray that whatever sickness is stricken the minds of policemen, they can clone a generic prescription, because I am tired of fitting the description. And I pray that we can go back to defining freeze as the point of Fahrenheit below 32 degrees, as opposed to the term used before committing the name of a Black man to his family's memory. A word so cold upon hearing it instantly, Black men know that their lives are in jeopardy. And I pray that we can disarm this hand-me-down weaponry of erroneous imagery, dismantling Black families across the country. Overseers' mentals chained to the idea that Black man is equivalent to thief, slave, nigger, and drug dealer. Creator, I pray that my Black skin will keep me safe. I pray that the words, "Why'd you take my baby away?" my mother never has to say. Most of all, I pray to never have to pray this poem again.
When we first started dating, I realized, well, actually, my cousin looked up the demographics for the town he lived in, and she said, "You do realize you're the only darkie in town, right? Like, there's a 0.005 ethnicity in town, in that town, and you're probably going to be living in a living hell." So when I got to know his sisters, I said to them, "Just bail me out if anything ever happens to your brother. Just bail me out." Because he's one of those guys that will like go up and cut a limb down from a tree without telling anybody he's going to go up and cut a limb down from a tree. Now, the only smart, because, well, he did fall out of a tree, and the only smart thing he did was tie down the chainsaw to the tree so it didn't fall on him. And then I was in Virginia when he said that he did some stupid shit. And, I heard the sound of his voice, and, I'm calling him, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "Nothing." And I went, "You know what? I'm in Virginia dealing with my mother and my elderly aunt. I don't have time to figure out what's going on with you. And I know something's going on with you, but I don't have the time to deal with this right now. So you tell me when you're ready." And I got home, and he had fallen out the damn tree. And he waited until I went to Virginia to up and go. Now, why would you go up in the tree with nobody around? So anything that he wants to do, just like that. And, I figured if anything ever happened to him, literally just bail me out, because we're going to have to prove that I didn't do it. And it's not even funny, but it is. But, anyways, I'm driving home. It's late. It's a little bit after midnight, and I'm driving home, and I see an officer parked perpendicular in the police station. So when I drove past him, of course, his headlights hit me. And, I was on the phone, Bluetooth with my husband, then boyfriend. And when that happened, I was like, "Oh, shit, I'm getting stopped." And then he goes, "Well, why? You're not doing anything, are you?" And I said, "No, look, I'm getting stopped." And he goes, "Well, why?" But I said, "Shut up, because I need to get off the phone." So I got off the phone. And the police officer naturally pulls up behind me, and I turn left, and I take a left onto the street where he lives. And as soon as I turn left, the lights go on. So I pulled over, and I'm pissed. And unfortunately, I cannot control that. That probably would have helped me, because I was just so like, why would you stop me? And I get pissed, and I know it gets you nowhere, and it gets you nowhere. But I pulled over, and I go, "What's wrong, officer? There wasn't a thing that I did wrong, and I saw you pull out as soon as I passed you." And he goes, "License and registration." And I give them my license and registration, and I say, "May I get out of the car?" And he says, "Yes." I got out of the car, and I took pictures of where he stopped me, because I literally had just turned onto the street. And so I said, "What did I do wrong?" And he was like, "You were driving on the left lane." Yeah, you were driving on the left lane. You were driving on the wrong side of the street. And I said, "That is simply not true. Look at where you stopped me. That is not possible." And I get back in the car, and I'm sitting, and I think part of the reason I was so confrontational, and I don't know if I would have been like that, since, I knew my husband, then boyfriend, was 5 minutes behind me. And, my husband pulls up. Now, if he was Black, he would be dead. But he pulled up, and I mean, he pulled up right next to the cop, right? And, we've been dating for a few months, and then he opens up with a lie. What's the matter, officer? That's my wife. And I'm just sitting in the car like, oh, Jesus, what the fuck? And the officer goes, blah, 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 traffic, blah, 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 whatever, he said. I don't even remember what the officer said, but he just said that, whatever he said, it wasn't what he said to me. And then he tells my husband to pull over in front of him, and he's in the car, and for a minute he comes to my window, he hands me back my license and registration and says, just make sure you're on the right side of the street from now on. I almost was like, motherfucker, I wasn't on the wrong side of the fucking street. But I said, okay, I'm just gonna deal. And then he pulls off, and he's in front of my husband, but he's not going away fast. So I pull out, my husband pulls out, and we're all going in the same direction. And then my husband waves his arm out the window for me to pass him. I'm like, oh, really? On a double yellow line, you want me to fucking pass you right now? Right? And I'm just like, dude, you are just asking him to pull me over. And I said, oh, it is only because you're white. Because any Black man who would have done that would be dead, would have been shot. You don't pull up next to a cop at a traffic stop, and you just don't do that shit. And it's a shame that I even know that.
I started to cry on July 7th, the day after police officers killed Alton Sterling and Philandro Castile, two African-American men, in two separate incidents in Louisiana and Minnesota. Listening to NPR in the car, my emotions poured forth as I heard Castile's girlfriend, Diamond Reynolds, questioning on her own Facebook broadcast why the officer would shoot and kill his family man, her partner, a devoted school employee and father. As I calmed down and reflected on my own white privilege, I decided to speak up and more widely share my thoughts from May 21st, 2016. The night I was stopped by the Brookline Police Department. I just got pulled over by the police in Brookline by an African-American officer. My lights were off at night. I was at fault. He wanted to make sure I wasn't drunk. Thankfully, I had not had a sip of alcohol. Throughout the incident, the officer treated me respectfully. He asked me for my license and my registration. Seeing that I was uncomfortable, tickets are expensive and police have power and guns, he told me that there was no need to be nervous. He even offered to look up my registration for me when I couldn't find it immediately. He went to his car for a few moments and then came back with a written warning. He told me, put on my lights, and I explained that one light was broken, but that I'd be getting it fixed immediately. He looked at the car lights, told me, be safe, and sent me on my way. Immediately, all I could think of was, what if the situation were reversed and that the officer was white and the driver was African American? Would the officer have offered the same amount of respect? Would the driver have felt not just a nervousness, but a terror, a fear of bodily harm, as the brilliant public intellectual Ta-Nehisi Coates so cogently describes in his 2015 masterpiece, Between the World and Me? I know these are not rhetorical questions. I quickly think of how Sandra Bland in my head, I hear her name, I see her face. I recall close friends, men of color, detailing stories of feeling terrorized by police. Earlier today, I reread the story of Rutgers professor Imani Perry's unjust arrest. I hear her name, I see her face. I recount being outraged as I witnessed brown and Black youth from a program I launched in Boston's South End being interrogated by police, pressed up against a church wall to see if they belonged in their own neighborhood. I hear their names, I see their faces. I think about how many jails are filled with people of color who are there because they couldn't pay tickets. There are too many names to name, to hear, too many faces to see. I think of how mass incarceration is a racist system. Tickets and fines are disproportionately given to Black people as a key strategy to raise money for municipalities. When people can't pay, they frequently end up in private prisons. I think of Ferguson. I hear its name. I see its faces. I feel deep empathy. Today, as I think of how I benefited from white privilege, I also denounce white supremacy.
I used to get stopped routinely on the way to my husband's house in Rehoboth before we got married. And I got arrested in Rehoboth. Me, Mary Tyler Moore in black skin got arrested in Rehoboth. And I had to go to court. And they tried to tag me on a drug case in Rehoboth because they searched my car and they found a vial of powder. And it was an old spice jar, and I had just ripped the label off. And he comes to me, and I'm sitting in the back of his cruiser on that hard little bench, which, by the way, I did not know they had hard benches in the back of cruisers when you get arrested. Like, did not know that. Fun fact that I wish I knew. And they didn't even handcuff me. And so me and my little 2-pound dog were in the back seat because, I had my dog with me, and I was crying. And I was mad at myself because I was crying, but I couldn't help crying. And he comes up to me and holds this thing in my face and he's like, "What's this?" And then I start laughing because, I'm a cancer survivor and it was a dietary fiber, just fiber in a jar. And I laughed at him and that did not go over well. But I was driving a car that belonged to a dealership because, my car was getting repaired. And, I carried around the letter of the law because with me, that's just, that is not legal, and they can take your plates in Rhode Island and they can take your plates off your car, put it on dealerships, as long as the dealership has your car and you have a little piece of paper, that goes a long way with your original registration and everything. And, all that's legal. That's legal in Rhode Island. But that is not legal in Massachusetts. However, they are obligated to respect the laws of boarding states. So I would carry around the law, and because, I got stopped a couple of times for doing that, and, I would carry it. And plus, I was driving a piece of crap, so I was constantly repairing. So, when I carried the law, and the law states that they had to respect the Rhode Island laws, and I carried it, and I said a lot, okay, in Rhode Island, they do that. And then my brother said to me, if you would have just said, "I'm sorry, officer," and kept saying, "I'm sorry, officer," you would have been fine. But you tried to tell them that you weren't wrong. So they charged me with a criminal offense of driving with something with plates. And then they charged me with they charged me with 3 things. They tried to charge me, they tried to do the drug charge, but that did not work out well for them. And, I went to court and I had all my paperwork in order and I had a lawyer and I laid down everything for the judge. And I said, "By the way, this is about the 3rd or 4th time I've been stopped in Rehoboth." And the judge looked at my paper and he said everything was in order. He looked at the cop, which was not the cop who stopped me, and he said, well, the judge apologized. The judge apologized to me. He said, "I'm sorry. You should have never have been stopped. And if you were stopped, you should have been released immediately. There was no reason." There was no reason, he said. "I'm so sorry that you had to go through that." And this was all within the last 10 years.
I feel like I have to own up to something. I got caught in a rainstorm and ducked into porch in the house that I knew was abandoned. A guy that was black came around the corner about the same time as I did, and we scared the shit out of each other. My first reaction was, "Oh shit, I better check my wallet." And I fucking hate that. I feel like a shithead. Because after about 10 minutes, we started talking about comic books. He's from Queens, and we talked about New York, and it was totally fucking normal. And I just fucking hate that my first reaction was some entrenched reaction I grew up with. I feel sick about it. I know you post about institutional racism, and I wanted to share it with you because I'm not overtly racist, or at least I try not to be. But this really fucking rocked me. It was just such a gut reaction. His name was Will. He wanted to draw comics. I don't know why I wanted to share this with you, except that you talk about this stuff a lot. 5 times my skin color didn't kill me.
1. I am 11 years old. My cousins and I are shoplifting cap guns from Child World. I've got my eye on a die-cast metal replica of a .44 Magnum. Jonathan said, it's too big, but I popped the plastic brackets and stuffed it down my pants. We played it cool, passed the register, and out the door. Once clear of the plaza, we loaded our weapons, pointed at the sky, pop, pop at each other, pop, pop at passing cars, pop, pop, pop.
2, 9th grade. Davey and I are sneaking out his girlfriend's house at 2 a.m., creeping between cars on Lonsdale Plaza. The officer's voice rings out. Stop, you're under arrest. I look at Davey. He looks at me. We see the same thing. This cop in his late 40s, out of shape and 20 yards away. Without the slightest care that he would draw his weapon, we bolt across the street behind the post office and leap the tall wooden fence beyond.
3. After Jonathan's 16th birthday party, Chris is racing through the gears. His parents are on a vacation, and we have stolen the car. So we wouldn't have to troop through Fairmount Projects with a bunch of weed and a case of beer. Attempting to discard the evidence, Daniel tosses the case of beer out the window. Instead of it clearing the breakdown lane and landing in the grass, the wind takes it straight back where it smashes onto the pavement, directly in front of the cop car that's been chasing us over the last 3 blocks. Chris finally pulls over. Glocks drawn, 2 officers approach our car, immediately lowering their weapons when they see the white teenagers inside. We are taken to the Woonsocket Police Department, where we wait for about an hour until my Uncle David comes to pick us up. No bullets, no charges, no court.
4, 20 years old. We get to the station and the officer looks at my hand, says, didn't I put those cuffs behind your back? To which I reply, you put them on too tight. See, my wrists are bleeding. I tried to get your attention, but you ignored me. So I slipped them under my legs. It hurts less that way. The officer slams me against the car. What are you, stupid? He says. What are you trying to get yourself killed? Some people get shot for stuff like that.
5. After the police arrest Cameron for not walking fast enough, everyone starts screaming and the police form a line. My friend Vadik asks, why was Cam arrested? Wants to know where they're taking him. Cam is black, so is Vadik. Almost all the police are white. Vadik repeats his question. Suddenly, an officer grabs him by the shoulders and slams Vadik into the pavement. 3 more officers pile on top of him. Everyone takes out their phones. I look at the 50 people filming, and it just doesn't feel like enough. So I push through an opening in the police line, sit down a couple feet from where Vadik is being arrested. They drag him away, and I'm sure I will be next. There are police racing around on all sides, but no one ever comes to get me. It's as though they're going out of their way to avoid a pothole, a pristine white flower protected behind a glass case.
If we were to revisit any one of these 5 true stories I've just told, with only one difference being my skin were black or brown, would I be alive today? We must revisit our stories. We must revisit.
You must revisit skin.
1, Tamir Rice is 12 years old, playing with a toy pistol in Cleveland Park, where a white neighbor calls the police, says a young black male is pointing a gun. White police race to the scene, rush over the grass, firing shots into the boy's body before the car even comes to a halt. Pop, pop.
Revisit skin 2. John Crawford is 22 years old, talking on the cell phone at a Walmart. He absentmindedly picks up a BB gun while shopping. A white customer dials 911 to report that an angry black man is waving a rifle. White officers race to the scene, ambush Crawford in an aisle, firing shots into his back and his chest before he even has time to hang up the phone. Pop, pop.
Revisit skin 3. Walter Scott is not racing through the gears or tossing cases of beer out the window. He's pulled over for a non-functioning third brake light. An argument ensues and Scott takes off running. Though he is unarmed, the white officer fires 8 shots in the direction of his exposed back. Pop, pop, pop. 3 of the bullets find their mark, and Walter Scott bleeds to death, face down in the grass.
We visit Skin 4. Sandra Bland is pulled over by a white officer for changing lanes without a signal. She's then arrested for refusing to extinguish a cigarette in her own car. When Sandra protests the legality of the arrest, she is slammed violently to the ground and taken into custody. But Sandra doesn't have a white Uncle David who went to high school with any of the cops in this precinct, and 72 hours later, she is found dead in her cell.
Revisit Skin 5. Ramsey Orton captured cell phone video of white Staten Island police choking his friend and neighbor Eric Gardner to death. His footage went viral, and the medical examiner declared that Gardner's death a homicide. Since that ruling, Order has been constantly surveilled, harassed, and arrested multiple times on highly questionable charges. His home has been raided, his mother and brother arrested in the process. Their family lives lives in fear because he showed the world unedited footage of how police actually conducted themselves that day.
If he had pushed past police and interfered with the assault on Garner, as I had when my friend was on the ground, would he even be alive today?
I don't believe there's any spike in police violence. The major difference between now and 50 years ago is that today, almost everyone has a camera phone and access to the internet.
Kids are playing at the park, having a great time. The white lady starts talking to my kids, telling them to stop climbing until their mom comes. I get up and start to walk over, and she grabs her purse and walks to Ella and Xavier. She starts saying loudly that she don't speak Spanish and can't help me. I tell her, their dad. She clearly can't comprehend that my white presenting children could be mine. She grabs her phone from her purse as though police are hers, which they are. She asks the children if they know me. I was starting to get angry, and all I could think is how frightened she is, but how much power she knows she holds, and that the police are her tool, that my life is in her hands. Hashtag papers, please. Hashtag Lady Dominion. Hashtag our kids. Hashtag invisible man. Hashtag black dad.
Back in 1995, I had a baby. I had just turned 20 and was a kid. Was kind of a scared kid, really. I wound up marrying her father because, well, I'm not sure. I certainly didn't have to. By the way, of my family, and my father hated him. My husband was 10 years my senior. He was an alcoholic. He was in and out of jail for the stupidest thing. He was abusive. Many, many times we had the police at our doorstep, and one of those times we were in front of his dad's house in Warwick, and I was in the car with my mom and my baby, who was 2 at the time, and we had hunted him down after he hadn't come home for over a week. His father, of course, hiding him out at his house. As his sister was standing at my window of the car, lying, telling me that he wasn't there, he came running down the driveway, pushed her out the way, and began punching me through the window in the face. My mom was disabled, and one of her metal crutches was next to me, so I picked it up and I held it lengthwise to block his blows, and he grabbed it out of my hands and proceeded to walk around the car, smashing the car. And he came to the window where the baby was sitting and smashed the windows, missing her head by just 1/4 of an inch. I got out the car to try and stop him from hurting her, and he turned the crutch on me. The police were called, and one officer asked if I wanted an ambulance, which I didn't at the time, but I stated I would go get checked out on my own. I got back into the vehicle, and my mom drove me directly to the hospital because I was bloody and battered, and we didn't know how the baby was, if she was hurt at all. While I was getting x-rays, the police showed up because they now knew I was there. My husband's father worked for the city, and he had pulled the local PD. And the sergeant who came to his house was an old friend of his. Apparently, he had decided to arrest me for felonious charges and assaults, and took false statements from his sister stating I hit him with the crutch. You get the picture. And when I came out the x-ray, my mom, frantic, met me halfway down the hall and told me to call my sister quickly because they were arresting me. And she was afraid they wouldn't release the baby to her because she was disabled. I went to the payphone, as I'm at the payphone, I can hear two people arguing. "Oh, there's no way in hell I am doing this," one voice said. And the other voice said, "I'm your superior officer and you cannot disobey a direct command without risking your job, son. So unless you want to be dismissed, I suggest you follow command." It was a cop and the sergeant arguing about arresting me. It was 2 a.m. by the time I was released, and so the officer had to stay with me because I was under arrest, and then he had to transport me to a central booking. On the way there, he never put me in cuffs, and he let me right in the front, explained that he would call a lawyer friend of his to get me out that night because of the time. I would have been arraigned in the morning, and he wasn't going to make me stay a second longer than necessary. When we got there, he immediately called his friend who arranged for the judge to come down, but it would cost $100. He let me stay he let me place several calls to gather up the money, and we waited. I was arraigned, charged, released on personal recognizance. My husband's father got him top-notch attorney, and I had nothing. The court then ruled to assign me to a private attorney instead of a public defender because there would have been a conflict of interest since the defender's office had previously represented him in a domestic case with me. One day, the officer called me and told me that he thinks he'll be dismissed because apparently the officer that had arrested me went door to door in the neighborhood to see if there were any witnesses and found a group of 10 and 11-year-olds who were playing stickball and saw the entire thing. He convinced the kids' parents to let them testify on my behalf, and he also vowed to testify on my behalf. The day of my court date, I walked in, and they were there, the 5 kids and the cop. The cop took the stand, and he stated that he did not want to arrest me, and he was forced to, citing that he knew they were lying, that I was railroaded. The kids never needed to be called. The charges were dismissed. The father and sister were charged with perjury. My ex went to jail again for abuse. DCYF was called in, and I had no clue whatever became with the sergeant. The sad thing is, I would see him patrolling the local beach, and he would ask if I was still married to him. And I was, sadly. It took me 6 years to get out of it, and that was just year 2. His name was Jeff. He made me cry that day.
New and Dangerous Ideas is composed of true stories, poems, monologues submitted by Rhode Island community at large.
The very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work.
Creator, I pray that one day my mother won't have to worry herself gray over my being safe. I hear her name. I see her voice.
I see her face.
It's not my job to teach white people about their racism.
Revisit Skin 1, Pop.
It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being.
I hear their names. I see their faces.
It's not my job to teach white people about their racism.
I pray that blue uniforms and blackface.
Revisit skin 2. Pop, pop.
Somebody says you have no language, so you spend 20 years proving that you do.
Revisit skin 3. Pop, pop, pop.
It's not my job.
Performing their skits called isolated incidents.
Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly.
To teach white people.
Pop, pop.
So you have scientists working on the fact that it is.
About their racism.
Pop, pop. Revisit skin 4.
Would stop trying to cast me for the lead role because everyone knows no matter the movie or show, the black man is always the first to go.
Somebody says you have no art.
Pop, pop, pop.
So you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdom, so you dredge that up.
It's not my job to teach white people about their racism.
It's not my job to teach white people about their racism.
Pop. Revisit skin 5.
None of that is necessary. There will always be one more thing.
Pop, 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 pop.
Why'd you take my baby away?
Wednesday, May 18th, 2016. At approximately 1300 hours, while en routine, Patrol Car 333, Patrolman Sheridan observed unidentified male subject wandering back and forth out of the intersection located in the vicinity of Broad Street and Montgomery Avenue.
I went out to see a local band in Providence. I used public transportation, had a great evening with friends, and left home for around 11 p.m. The last stop on the bus line is conveniently located at the top of my street. So I exited the bus and began the 5-house walk home. A police car drove past me, did a U-turn, and pulled up next to me. The police officer asked me my name.
In an attempt to check the well-being of the subject, the officer asked the suspect who he was and where he was going. The suspect replied with, I don't gotta tell you.
I ain't gotta tell you shit. Rhode Island passed a bill in 1938 that says a peace officer may detain any person abroad whom he or she has reason to suspect is committing, has committed, or is about to commit a crime, and may demand the person his or her name. Because of the particular U-turn the officer made and the present climate of police-citizen relations across the country, I was on guard. I asked the officer why he wanted my name, and he firmly made his request again. I told him, if he does not give me a reason for the stop, I don't have to give him my name.
It was at this time the police officer stepped out of the vehicle and again asked the suspect where he was going. The suspect then, at this time, pointed over Patrolman Sheridan's shoulder and stated,
Over there.
Patrolman Sheridan asked what the exact address was, to which the unidentified male again stated,
I don't have to tell you shit. He exited his vehicle and blocked my path to my house. I tried to get around him. He grabbed me. I asked him if he was a public servant and if I was being detained. His reply was,
why you gotta go with that?
He grabbed me and threw me against the car.
Police then asked the unidentified male to have a seat in the marked cruiser while police figure out where he lived. It was at this time the unidentified male pushed Patrolman Sheridan's arm away and attempted to overpower Patrolman Sheridan. It was at this point Patrol Sheridan took hold of the suspect's arm and wrist and detained the suspect in the back of the marked cruiser.
I turned to him and said, I know you're a police officer. I know you can shoot me and will be cleared of any crime. I have a daughter. I want to live. He opened up the car door and told me to get in. I got in. No handcuffs, no pat down, no rights. Long story short, I spent the night in the clink.
At this point, the suspect began screaming, please don't shoot me. God, please don't shoot me. The white cop is going to shoot me. As additional police arrive on the scene, as additional police units arrive on the scene, the suspect continues to exclaim that he was going to be beat up and killed by white cops. It should be noted that during the encounter, while attempting to gain control, the suspect vented the rear passenger side door of the marked cruiser, causing minor damage. The unidentified suspect was transported to Central Station, where he was held for the next session of 6th District Court. The suspect was charged with simple assault, resisting arrest, and disorderly conduct. In addition to those charges, the suspect was advised in the cell block that if he did not give his personal information, he could possibly face an additional obstruction charge. The suspect stated he did not care.
You might wonder why I wouldn't give a police officer my name. I think that the only reason I have not to give a police officer my name is because I was hiding something or committing a crime. You might say I don't respect the police, but the questions I have are, why does this not happen in predominantly white neighborhoods? If I was white, would the officer have made a U-turn to ask me my name? Would he have put his hand on me without giving me any reason? I'm not supposed to see them, the ghost. But they peek at me from floating fragments of dimensions, and I can see them like I'm not supposed to notice red-tailed hawks perched upon highway lampposts in the form of Sankofa. Like the message doesn't exist. Like my next move won't matter. Like my America is not killing Black boys and letting white men walk away with murder. Like I'm not supposed to speak upon the ghost I see peeking at me from floating fragments of dimension. Like blue uniforms flashing 4th of July behind me is not a profile. Like race is not a factor when white men capitulate to the urge to create ghosts out of Black boys. Like anyone speaking about beings other than God or angels is crazy. Like it's okay to make angels out of Black boys. Like calling white men devils is racist. Like race is not a factor in a murder trial. Like it's my fault I can see ghosts like red-tailed hawks perched upon highway lampposts in the form of Sankofa. Like I'm not supposed to see the message peeking at me like ghosts through floating fragments of dimensions like a mirror, shattered and scattered across air. Like I know my next move matters when blue uniforms flash 4th of July behind me. Like I know not all white men are devils, just the ones making angels out of Black boys and walking away with murder. Like I'm not supposed to relay the message. Like the message doesn't exist. Like I'm not all broken hero or shattered Haru. No Jonah, just Geppetto in the belly of the ghetto, like ghosts of murdered Black boys, peeking at griots through fucking fractures of shattered dimensions. Griots like poets who should be more like prophets like Jonah, not Geppetto in the belly of the ghetto, but prophets seek prophets and the message gets distorted, shattered like pieces of mirrors scattered through air, shattered ghosts of broken toys wanting to be real boys. The ghost, they speak to me. Missing flying on bikes like angels to mother's kisses, buttermilk biscuits, and after-school dances. Ghosts speak to me, bragging of flying like angels and b-ball pickups and puppy love machismo. Ghosts toss soul and universe to magic penny wish on me to become a man, not a boy with dreams of flying, shattered, like I could be them. Like my next move doesn't matter. Like I'm not supposed to see the message God graffiti and blue sky and white cloud and red-tailed hawk perched upon highway lamppost in the form of Sankofa. That white men with the urge to make ghosts make Black bodies fly like angels. Warning that my next move matters. Because America is flashing 4th of July in rearview mirror, eyes full of ghosts. Life is unobtainable for Black boys, better born angels. Fini. We're finished.
Well done, everyone. That was awesome. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We're going to do a quick talk back right now.
Hey, I want to give it up to my daughter. Thank you.
Woo!
17 years old, sitting here working with her dad.
Is that a world premiere?
That's a world premiere.
Mm-hmm.
World premiere, first time.
Well done. So that's clearly a really awesome piece. Before we get to the talkback and go over everything, I just want to give a quick shout out to Go Local Prov, because they are live streaming stuff on their website and have sponsored us and gave us a great feature today. So thank you,
Go Local Prov.
Thank you, Go Local Prov, and particularly happy Passover to our friends in the Jewish community. We hope you have a wonderful celebration tonight into tomorrow.
Quick question, just to bring that back. A lot of my friends who wanted to see the performance tonight are participating in Passover, and they want to know if this will be available later on for them to download or look at or whatever. So if you could give that information, I'd appreciate it.
Great question. So this video is going to be preserved on the Wilbury Facebook page and the Wilbury YouTube channel. And if for some reason you can't find it, if you have trouble locating the link, or you want like an original copy of the download, you can email me directly, max@thewilburygroup.org, and I will get that over to you. But you can always find it on our Facebook and YouTube channels. So, like we said right at the beginning, Christopher, this was part of Wilbury's Studio W season in 2017-2018, and also has some great awards that have been given to it. How did this play kind of coalesce? Well, how did can you talk about like the creation story behind this thing?
Okay, well, now that it's all over, but I do have to state that there are some things I cannot talk about because my lawyer because I'm suing the city, and so therefore I cannot say too much. What I can say is I got arrested. That if you listen to the part where we mentioned me and Phoenix, we had a back and forth about me being arrested and the police officer because my rights were violated, and I sat in jail that night. Angry and mad and cursing, and part of what happened was I was thinking to myself, but I know police officers, like I literally know, Archie Johnson and Oscar. I can't remember Oscar's last name, but I know police officers. So it's like on one aspect of it, I'm like fuck the police, and then on the other aspect of it, it's like, but I can't say fuck the police if I know police officers. So I wanted to try to find some healing in the situation as opposed to just being angry at police. And me being the artist that I am, the writer that I am, I decided that I would write a play. And I went to Facebook and I went to Twitter and I asked people to submit stories about good and bad situations that they had with police. And I went to the police that I knew and asked them if I could talk to them about their situations. And surprisingly enough, I only got bad stories, and every time I set up a interview with the police, they would cancel on me. So that's how the play happened. The play happened the way that it happened.
That's too bad. And you are you're known as like spoken word and poetry. So what do you think that as a spoken word and poetry artist? So what do you think that form kind of contributes to this message that you're getting across? Like how do you think that why is it so powerful, and how does theater fit into that?
Well, to be honest, if I have to really talk about it, well, I'm only going to talk honestly. I'm not going to lie to you. But the thing is, the oratory traditions in African culture go back. And so, when I grew up listening to storytellers, I grew up listening to how stories were being told. And so the whole spoken word aspect of it was just something that, was a part of me since I was just a kid. It was a part of my tradition, a part of my culture and everything else. So when it came to this actual aspect of it, I really started writing a play with no venue. I didn't say, hey, Josh, let me do my play at Wilbury. What happened was Josh said, hey, Chris, do you have a play ready to go? So it was like, it was serendipitous. And so, the fact that I'm able to, thank God that the one thing that my mother gave me that she put all of her money into was my education. So I was able to write something and put something together that had value in the community more than just entertainment, more than just a car chase and a girl at the end where the cowboy rides off in the sunset. You know, that all of that stuff is nice, and I'm not knocking it. But with this particular piece, I was looking for healing, and I was looking for voices to be heard, and I was looking to connect with people in a bigger way than just being entertained, just entertaining.
Totally. I'd love to know how this hits for Angelique. I know you were kind of a late addition, should we say, to the reading tonight. So I'm wondering how did this feel? I know you got a little bit of prep time reading it, and how did it feel reading it ahead of time, and then how did it feel doing it, and sort of what does this play speak to you? What does it mean to you?
So for ahead of time, I had about 10 minutes, but for the 10 minutes I read it, and I was like, yes.
Yes.
I'm still digesting what this play means to me. I am an Africana Studies major, and so a lot of this play, we talk about this and we digest and we depict it in class, and we always is creating conversations about what is it like to be a Black body in America, and what is it like to be an African American body in America, because we always talk about how there's a separation between those two and how there are connections between those two. So that's a whole other live stream we can do. But in terms of this play,
That's the sequel. That's going to be tomorrow night. You can all tune in.
For the sequel.
In terms of this play, I really, really vibe with the writing and how it's written to, like, even when you, like, if you read the script, how everything is stylized. I feel like it really speaks to the Black methods of storytelling, which Christopher was talking about. And then what does it mean to me? Because I think that was your other question. For me, this is all just confirmation that being a Black body anywhere, but being a Black body in a colonized demographic, which is America, is hard. And how do we go forward in society and try to stay together, but also realizing that, like, what you're seeing on the news is real, and how we distance ourselves from that reality as well. I remember Trayvon Martin being like one of my first real, like, instances of where I saw police brutality, and the differences of how Black Lives Matter is compared to Blue Lives Matter. And so just reading this play and getting to having this experience with other Black artists in Rhode Island it's very, very been fruitful. I'm very glad that Christopher hit me up and that I got to experience your writing for the first time, which was very beautiful and very well done. I feel like I answered all your questions.
No, I got a question, Angelique, because you before we started, I asked you if you knew the person who you were portraying, and you said you just know the person on Facebook in the scene. And when you were talking, the first two monologues that you did, I was trying to hold back the laughter, because without even knowing the person, you got it, and it was just so funny. It was like so hilariously funny that you was like, he's like, and I was like, and what the fuck? And I was just like, oh my God, she so sounds like her right now. And then the last piece that you did, I almost felt like you were holding back tears. Did you like connect with, you can connect with these people, like you really connected with these people like that, you can feel the Blackness and everything, and I want to know, like, is that like a standard, like you were saying, how you're not alone in being in a Black body? Do you think that's a standard, and so that which made you slip into it easy, or was it something that you had to think about before you got in?
I don't think I don't think I thought about it too much. I feel like because of a lot of the work that I do, and other plays like Fires in the Mirror or House Arrest, where it pertains to Black bodies and other bodies that are, people of color, and then also, being a person of color, Black and brown woman myself, I just I saw myself in that piece, and even though I didn't relate 100%, there was that 10% that I said, oh, well, that's me. And so I could feel it's just kind of like I feel like I got slapped from my ancestors in that moment.
I felt
it's
that.
very easy to connect, and the way it was written too, it's beautifully written where it's a masterpiece, but you don't need to have a description to understand what you're looking at. And so that's all I got to say. I'm trying and be like a scholar over here. That's it. Yeah, I'll get it.
Okay.
That was awesome. So Phoenix, I saw at one point too, you were gesturing when we were talking about Angelique kind of embodying the person that we were talking about beforehand. So as someone who was involved in the original staging of this at Wilbury back in the day, how does it compare now? How does it compare then? Like, what's the progression in your life? Like, how does it traveled over time?
Well, it was fun then, and it's fun now because I mean it's just the bonding experience of working with other people who can relate to these stories in different ways. They bring their story on board, so it's like just unpacking more, almost like an onion, unpeeling more layers. It was funny when Angelique was playing that person. I, like Christopher, I was just laughing because it was like boom. Oh, like yeah, boom. Matter of fact, I was trying to like not be caught for when this person does view this. I didn't want to get caught smiling. You know what I'm saying? So right now, I'm just going ahead. I didn't really laugh. I was just kind of laughing. I was like laughing because Angelique is talented, but I wasn't really laughing. Person.
It's too late. She's going to get you. She's going to get you.
I know. I'm done. I broke. Angelique brought it. She brought down the house with it. So can't.
She definitely did. She definitely did. So if we had to wrap this up in any way, Christopher, how do we go from here as a society? You talk a lot about it's not a Black issue, it's an American issue, and kind of where our country is right now. Like how is the play matured or kind of fermented over time, and where do we go from here? How does the play exist nowadays, and where do you think it exists tomorrow?
Sadly, the only thing that has stopped Black people from dying by cop is COVID-19. Sadly, that's the only. The numbers are still the same. They didn't shrink any. The arrest rates are still the same. They didn't shrink any. The whole reason I wrote this play was for healing, but mainly because I have a daughter, and it's about the world that I'm trying to create for her to live in. And if she has kids in the future, the world that my grandkids will live in. That's if she has kids. I'm not, whatever. I'm not, whatever. I'm not ready for it yet. I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm not ready for it yet, Asha. Okay, she says she's not ready either. So anyway, so we're good. But the bigger issue here is the play exists so that the play can become irrelevant. That's why it exists, so that it can become irrelevant. And the thing is, when we first did this play, I think it was day 3, the third day we did it, a guy walked up to me and he says, I walked into this play expecting to hate 80% of the play. And I walked out and I only hated 50% of the play. And I realized that there were some things that you're just right about. And if I can get somebody to take 30% of what they think and rethink what they believe, and you've seen the play. The play is not just from a Black perspective; it's also from a white perspective. I made sure to have white people as well as Black people, so that it wasn't just coming from like, oh, poor me. It was like, no, this is a real freaking issue. It's not just a Black issue; it's an American issue. And until America realizes that this is an American issue, it's just going to continue to happen. And unfortunately, I know people who don't see it the same way I see it.
That's a beautiful way to put it. The play exists so that it can become irrelevant. I love that. So thank you for sharing it with us tonight. It is still very relevant. And we hope people who watched it, hopefully it spurred some feelings in you too, like it did for us watching it here. If people want to find more of you, Christopher, where can they go? What website, handle, hashtags? What do you got?
Well, the website is really simple. It's theincredible.com. But it's not the incredible like you spell Incredible Hulk. It's the incredible like THE, the capital letter N, CREDIBULL, because I'm a tourist. I'm a May tourist. It's about to be May. It's about to be May. It's about to be tourist season. And hopefully, you know, this COVID will let up. You know, and Gina Raimondo just put us down so May 8th. So that means I'll be sitting in my house on my birthday. So maybe I'll do a virtual birthday party. And you know, but so you go to my website and we'll do a virtual birthday party. But THE in capital N CREDIBULL.com. And you can go there, and a lot of my stuff that I do is there. Well, we had to take down a lot of stuff because a lot of my programming that I had going on got canceled. So we had to like totally take that part down. So there's nothing of future shows, but you can contact me through there. We can figure something out. We can have live chats through my website. And then also I'm on Facebook. If you go to Christopher Johnson, spoken word artist on Facebook. And I think Wilbury has me listed somewhere as well on the website. So you know, I'm pretty easy to get to. And also, I want to thank Phoenix Williams again for coming in, for doing this again. We had so much fun in the production of this play. Y'all, you weren't there the first time, or you were there, but it just got better. Our interaction got better. I want to thank Angelique Dina for coming and dropping in. We had an emergency at the last minute. Angelique literally had 10 minutes to view the play, and then jumped in and played our mutual friend very well. Played our mutual friend very well. And I want to thank my daughter, who I just told about the play yesterday. This was her first time doing such a thing, and it was great. And I hope that her schoolmates tuned in to see it. And that's really it for me. And thank Wilbury, and thank Josh, and thank Max. And people don't know it, but Josh was the first person to actually say, "Hey, Christopher Johnson, can you write a play?" And I did. I want to thank Josh for that, and Kate Kajita and Max.
Thank you, Christopher, and thank you everyone for sharing tonight. We appreciate it very much, and thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Wait, we have to. We also. I'm so sorry.
Go.
We have to give RISCA props too, because Rhode Island State Council of the Arts wrote the. I wrote the grant, and they paid for me to write the play. Mm-hmm. So we have to thank Rhode Island State Council of the Arts and everybody over at Rhode Island State Council of the Arts. Beautiful people, Randall Rosenbaum, Molly Flanagan, Maggie Anderson, other people who I can't remember. The guy, I got his face in my name.
Todd Trevor.
Yes, I got their faces in my head, but I can't thank all of them people over there for funding the play so that it could happen.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, this will be archived on Wilbury's Facebook and YouTube page. So if you missed it, you can catch it there. All right. Take care, y'all. Wash your damn hands, and we'll see you again in person